What's up, everybody? Welcome, ladies, gentlemen, children, staff, and students, everybody watching. I'd like to welcome you all to another episode of the story of Will Baker-Sledd right here in Bowie Films, the only place where you can find something for everybody to watch. We got something for the ladies. We got something for the streets. We got something for the ladies in the streets. So go ahead, hit subscribe. You might just find something for you. Subscribe to the channel right now is the only way we can keep making these videos for you guys, the viewers. We do it for y'all. This is the story of Will Baker-Sledd. Will, what's going on, bro?
Not much. I was wondering, what about the fellas and the fellas in the streets?
Well, I mean, here's the thing. I'm gonna be honest with you right now. You look like a frat boy with that shirt on. So I don't know what fellas in the streets you talking about, but based on what we've heard from Will, is a lot of fellas in the streets in Benton Harbor. Some mean dudes, the tough streets of Benton Harbor. Speaking of the tough streets, that's one place my co-host would not make it. I'm sure of it. He would not make it. Before he says anything, I need you to lick your lips because it looks like they might just bleed. And did you get a haircut today? That's ungodly. Ladies and gentlemen, my co-host Michael Bowie.
First, no, can't even say that joke because your mom might actually be watching the channel. But I'm going to jump right into my other comment and say that we are all superheroes here. And if we were, I would be the mighty Thor. I see you, Will. You would be the incredible Black Panther. Okay. And then Manny, Ant-Man. You'd be Ant-Man.
He's white.
But you're the same height. You missed the joke. Went right over your head. No pun intended. But here we are, back on the show. Story of Will Baker-Sledd. Thank you for being here.
You're welcome.
You're welcome.
And also thank you. This has gotten real weird all of a sudden. Okay, Mexican Paul Rudd. We don't need you to be laughing about this. All right, you can just keep it down until your episode comes up. Go ahead. Here we are, we're moving into episode 4. The last thing that I remember talking about last week was sexuality in terms of you revealed to us that you're gay and that you had come out as being gay and how that was. And so I know that that's kind of like a topic that a lot of people are going to see as being touchy, but how did you kind of deal with this and how did you come out? I think that I'm not sure if we actually touched on it, but how did you come out and how did other people react to that? How did you deal with that situation?
I don't honestly think that it was something I had to deal with per se. It was more so of coming to terms with it.
So you didn't get any drawback, everybody, because a lot of times people are uncomfortable with it. They don't know how to deal with it.
So I had my moments where I was uncomfortable, but that would be moments in church where homosexuality was talked about being something sinful and you would go to hell for it, or listening to the fellas in the streets talk about
because they are there.
Gay men or who they consider men they consider to be fags, which is not a term I like to use, or sissies, punks, any of the sort that means less than a man. Those were moments where I did feel uncomfortable just because I felt like knowing that I was possibly gay made me those things. And that was just because of what I was taught and what people that would say the things were taught to by either their fathers or moms or other friends or listening to their religious people in their families. So those were the only times where I felt uncomfortable. It wasn't really directed towards me per se. I didn't really carry myself. Well, I'd like to think that I didn't carry myself as giving away that I could possibly be gay. also growing up in a Black community, and also in the public eye, especially TV, we've been programmed to think that gay is like your, not being racial, but it's usually like a white guy that's does hair and is extra flamboyant and does feminine things. So a lot of people has painted that picture of that's what being gay is. So not to really say that that helped me deal with it. I do think it is because I came off as an ordinary masculine straight guy or your guy next door. And a lot of people didn't assume that. But when it comes to being a man that dances, I felt like that was something that would be considered weak or sissy like, as a term they would say, or punk like, or make me less than macho. So that was part of a reason why I didn't like to let people know that I did dance, because I felt like it was something that would give away my sexuality. And it was something that I was still unsure of or knew or didn't know if that was really me.
Was this during the time? Because you have people like Chris Brown who do dance. Is it the kind of dance that you felt that you did that would insinuate that? Because
it was before that. This was before there ever was a Chris Brown. Like, I was born in '83.
Well, maybe Michael Jackson's not a good example. That's my guy. That's my guy. But that's
mine too.
That's a bad example.
Mine too. And I'm trying to think of what male celebrity or artist was popular back then. But even then, they didn't really dance in a way that would make you think that they could be gay or bisexual. And then if you did, it wasn't something that was really talked about. Because I feel like when I was young, sexuality wasn't really discussed or talked about in a public eye.
Well, I mean, and I'm not trying to say you old, but you guys, you had guys like Prince. You had guys like
that's
Usher.
Also a bad example if you're gonna use.
Okay, Prince. All right. Well, I said Usher too. I said Usher because I grew up on Usher too.
Usher's a good example because Usher's been around for a minute. So that's a good example, Manny. So that brings me back to my question to say, using Usher as an example, who would not be seen as being flamboyant and was popular for being dancing. Was that something that was a personal thing, or do you think that was genuinely something that just anybody would perceive for dancers?
It's even today in a professional dance world, you meet men that dance and automatically they're assumed to possibly be gay or bisexual.
And is that like a Black thing? Because
no.
Okay, all right. Yeah, you don't even got to hear the rest
men that dance professionally, period, 9 times out of 10, especially the women, they automatically assume that they might be gay or bisexual.
Now, there's different kinds of dancing. There could be male dancers, as in strippers. Obviously, that's not going to be the case. They're dancing for women unless it's a male strip club.
That's not true either. I know some straight men that dance as go-go dancers at gay clubs for the money.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that. I didn't know that existed. I knew about male dancing. I watched Magic Mike, and I'm not talking Michael Bowie, but I watched Magic Mike, and I watched it, but I didn't know there was like an audience for that, maybe like private bachelor parties or something like that, but I didn't know there was like an audience for that. You know what I'm saying? Like, there are gay strip clubs and there are regular strip clubs, but I didn't know there were like, well, I mean, I guess that falls under the category of gay strip club. It's in the name, but
yeah. Even in my dance crews, I had straight men in those, and they were always perceived, or people thought that they were gay. Just because they were men that danced, and just because they were associated with me too. But that was prior to me coming out. It's sad to say that my sexuality used to be at the forefront a lot when it came to other men performing in my dance classes as an instructor and in my dance crew as a director.
So I know that you had said that you hate the word fag, and every person, because I have many gay friends, it's different for everybody of what bothers them. It could be homosexual, it could be fag, it could be anything that really bothers them. Before coming out, since you put the emphasis that on the word that I use in terms of dealing with it, how did you deal with the fact of people kind of had, because we live in a world where people kind of down people based on sexuality and race, but specifically also sexuality. How did you deal with situations like that, knowing that you are gay? If somebody else is like, "Oh, look at this faggot" or something like it, as an asshole, did you have to like train yourself not to react or whatever, because that also might give away that you have a problem with it?
So I've never been disrespected to that level to my face. I've never been called a fag to my
Well, not
face
just
or a
you in general,
sissy
but it
or
could be general conversation where maybe somebody says something that you know is bothersome to you.
depending on who it is, there's been different ways I've handled it. I even have family members that refer to other gay men as fags or other gay women as dykes. And I had to explain to them in the LGBTQ A, B, C, D, E, F, G world, dyke and fag is as equivalent as to us as a white person calling you a nigger.
Oh wow, it's like that.
So we're considered homosexuals, gay, or lesbian, not fag or dyke.
Okay.
So just a little schooling for you two. Those aren't two words you should say referring to a gay man or a gay woman, because that's disrespectful to us.
Well,
Sure.
just you say that, I do appreciate that you say that, and so I do want to apologize to Manny. I meant to call you a dyke earlier.
You know what, Michael? Listen,
I'm sorry, I had to get my shot back in because he thought I forgot about his, but that's no big deal. I do understand that, and that is greatly appreciated. I apologize. That's the word I meant to use to you, Manny. But so when you did come out, how did other family and friends? Was there anybody that didn't handle that well, in between family and friends? Was it a shock to you?
My mom told me that she always knew or figured it because of the fact that I had so many female friends and a lot of them are beautiful. And she's never caught me having sex with them or trying to sneak them in the house, or they were spending the night at our place. So she assumed then my son possibly is gay. And she just basically told me she waited until I actually just came to her and told her. But she said she kind of figured that I was, just because she never had heard any stories. I hadn't had any pregnancy scares with any of them. And yeah, but with my dad, he wasn't around at the time. So actually he was, I take that back. But that was around the time when we had just started a relationship. My mom actually told him about me being gay. We didn't have the conversation, my father and I, until months before my wedding. That just happened.
Well, let's not jump too much forward, because that's going to kind of be my next question in terms of, after coming out, did you start to look for love? And if so, did you find it? Who was that first love?
So growing up, the first time or realization of what attraction was, I was always attracted to boys or men. So I can say that I've never had a sexual attraction to a woman, but knowing that society says that men are supposed to be with women, I did date them, but I always would attract women too. And I can honestly say in the relationship, there was a presence there as far as a friendship, a form of intimacy, but not really sexual.
I'm glad you said
And
that. Go ahead.
and
Go
then
ahead.
through high school, I had a few girlfriends, but then I had one girlfriend where I'm not gonna do names, but I was a freshman and she was a senior. So I feel like because of me being a freshman, being able to pull a senior, that was part of another reason why I became popular and a lot of people paid attention to me. Um, eventually we ended up breaking it off because she left to go to college. And then I honestly didn't even come out to her until years after the fact. And I kind of broke up with her because I had the realization that I knew that I was gay after trying to have the sexual encounter, and my body didn't respond.
like just being, I guess, blatant here, like you just couldn't get turned on. I don't know. You couldn't get hard.
Nope.
Just put it
And
out
it
there.
wasn't because of her or anything, but I just wasn't attracted to a woman. And I can honestly say and apologize to her, if she's watching it, she knows who she is, that it was never because of her. As far as the disconnect and the distance that started to happen, it was mainly me struggling with who I really was.
So, sorry not to cut you off. Talk about your journey. Like, you tell me that this is where you found out, but how did you journey yourself through finding out and convince? Like you said, you always kind of knew, but what was that journey like?
So eventually I started to find out that I wasn't the only person I wasn't the only person that was having these same desires and was living this life where they appeared to be straight, masculine, macho, but liked men as well. And then when I found that person and the way that I felt and was able to be myself in those moments with this person, and that's when I knew that I like men. Like, it's like the butterflies and the falling in love and spending nights on the phone, don't want to hang up and things like that. Like that first love type of feel. That's when I knew that, yeah, you're gay. You don't like women, but you do like men. And I've always been attracted to men, but never acted on it, and was dating girls to hide it. But also it helped me realize that I didn't really like women.
What about your dance crew? Like, was there any guys in there that also had that same feeling in terms of, well, maybe they were gay, but they kind of hid it because they didn't want people to know that them dancing or lesbian, that they were hiding that because they danced because they didn't want it to be assumed?
Yeah, so my mom even knew about some of the people in my dance crew being gay, and they were comfortable enough to be themselves around me and my mom and my family because they accepted it when their own families didn't. And this kind of created issues sometimes from those said dance members' families. And I was also blamed for being the influence or persuading their kids to be gay or lesbian. As silly as that sounds, but yeah. So there were people in my crew where dancing with me, it kind of turned into a family oriented crew. And this was a place where they could come, not only because of their passion for dance, but to be themselves.
So growing up in Benton Harbor, did you know a lot of gay people? Is there a lot of gay people in Benton Harbor? Like in Ann Arbor, there's a gay community.
Yeah. So no, in Benton Harbor, it was like if you were gay, it was on the low. And you couldn't just tell. Right. Most of the people Benton Harbor today is a different story, but back when I was growing up, no, you could not tell who was and who wasn't, and there was no sense of gay pride community of anything, of any sort.
I know Michael asked a little bit about this, about your dance crew and sort of did any of them come out? But what about some of these? You also grew around, the guys in the streets. You know what I'm saying? You grew around fellas who was in the streets. Any of these guys in the streets maybe, led a second life that, you didn't realize until after the fact?
Some of these guys still live second lives and married and got kids.
What is that? Okay, so what does that look like though? Because I know, like you said, Hollywood portrays this image of how that's supposed to happen or how that happens, quote unquote. But what is that really like? You coming from Ben Harbor, you in the streets and you leading the second life. You got wife and kids, and you don't tell nobody about what you really feel. Like,
I
what does
think
that?
it's I think it's because of those very things that I said stop me from coming out and keeping it private is the reason why some of them have never let who they really are be known, because they would either be disowned by their family or shunned from their churches, like just talked down upon by females in their lives. And it's sad. Like I hear members, like mainly black families, and that's because that's who I've always been around the majority of my life, just talk down on people who are gay or bisexual or decide to maybe experiment or explore other sides of them to figure out who they are, but maybe do like women to want kids or had kids, but still desire men as well. But I don't think a lot of people are willing. Well, I'll say a lot of people from Benton Harbor are open-minded enough to realize that there are people, even people that they're close to, family members of, that are gay or bisexual or have the desires and are afraid to be who they truly are because of the damage that was caused or things that was said about people that are like them, and they were afraid it would be treated the same way if they were honest with who they were to these people. And I think that's the reason why you have a lot of down low men, a lot of men who sleep with women or are dating women, but truly like men or desire men. And it's because I know to me, some people may look at it as accept who you are, grow up, and be real. But it's easier said than done. Like now, I couldn't care less who feels any type of way about me being a gay black man, but I can say at one point I did. And it took me a long time to get to a place where I didn't care and said, I want to be happy and be who I am and not care what nobody else thinks. Like I said at the end of the episode, like be you. The ones that matter won't care.
Are these some
worried about if people were to find out when you were younger? What were you worried what happened to you?
I don't know. I'm not sure. I don't think I was really worried about anything. It was more so of me just trying to make sure that that's who I was before saying something.
Right. Are these conversations? Because I mean, you got to tie it all in, right? The popularity, growing up in Benton Harbor, knowing some dudes in the streets, while being about your school and being about dance. Are these some of the conversations you're having when you go back home? I know you're not home right now, but when you go back to Benton Harbor, I'm pretty sure you're still pretty popular out there, if not all over the country. So, are these some of the conversations you're having in your hometown with youth or with some people your age, whatever it may be? Are you having these conversations about be who you want to be or sexuality wise, or are you just again?
So I've had some of these conversations privately, like on social media. I've had some youth from my hometown that knew about me and also knew that I was gay tell me that they were too, and they were afraid to come out, or asking me how did I go about coming out to my family, or what was my struggles or challenges I faced after coming out and being accepted or not accepted from family or friends or just people I ran into throughout life. But no, on a public platform where I was asked to like speak or anything, no, that's never happened. The most that's been asked of me was to come back and perform as representation of someone from Benton Harbor that was somewhat successful or successful to another level outside of just winning your local talent show. So my dance company has been back home to perform, I think maybe like 5 times out of my dance career.
Why aren't you having these conversations publicly though? You have the stage for it, I'm sure. Why?
It would basically be, it could be a platform where I created a series on YouTube or something like that, but I've never been asked to come back and
But
speak.
you don't feel like it's your duty. I mean, I don't want to say it's your duty, but I'm saying though, you just said it yourself. You one of the maybe few people who actually make it out of your town with some kind of popularity, with some kind of, you know what I'm saying, home pride. And so again, you don't feel like it's your duty or like you could be doing something. I'm not saying you have to, but you don't feel
It's
like you
something,
should be.
it's actually not something I thought about doing. Like, this is the first time something like this has been presented as a possible idea for me to do. I think one thing that probably distracted me from thinking that way is the fact that my hometown is very closed-minded. And our mentality on accepting bisexuality or homosexuality is based off of what we've been taught from home as something being negative or bad. But I never actually thought about being that spokesperson or the advocate for changing the views of our hometown or making those like me, because I'm pretty sure there's still several more people and will always be,
Yeah.
that would share the same story. But no, it's not something that I thought about. But it's not something that I wouldn't be against doing either. Just never thought about doing it.
Okay. Okay.
Are you actively like a part of promoting the rights towards the LGBT community, and if so, how so?
Um, I haven't broadcasted or supported any rights as far as the LGBTQ community. It'll, outside of just like resharing something that I agree with that someone else did, and then just being a representation of a positive gay male.
What about being a black male though? Because I mean, and you mentioned it earlier. I'm not sure exactly what you said, but you reminded me of another good friend of mine who was also black, who was also gay, and he said before people know I'm gay, they see me as a black male. And in America right now, that's tough. You know what I'm saying? So what about being a black male? Because if you're not, I mean, and again, nothing against you. It's not your duty. You are not the one to end millions of years of injustice against the LGBT community. But if you're not doing nothing for that community, are you doing something for the black community? Because again, in Benton Harbor, if you ain't in the streets, you probably in the sheets. You know what I'm saying? So, what are are you doing something for the black youth, the black men in Benton Harbor, the young men in Benton Harbor, or no? No.
No.
So that's a,
So, well, I'm not purposely doing something. Well, to me, I feel like I'm still representing black gay men, period, because I mean, black men, period, not black gay men, but I am a black man first. So, regardless if I'm gay or straight, everything that I'm doing is still representing black men. But as far as doing something to support the other black men back home, no. I would say the most that I'm doing is just living the current life that I am living, and indirectly just being somewhat, to any certain degree, of a positive, successful black male that happens to be gay.
Let's fast forward a little bit back because we were talking about your first boyfriend, the first guy that you were in love with, and it's a spoiler, not really a spoiler, should I say, that we already said you're married now, and so this obviously I'm assuming is not the person that you married. Am I correct?
That's correct.
So how did this first person? How did that relationship go? How did that end? Was there anybody else prior to the person that you're with now? Which we'll save that conversation and how that went for probably episode 5. I'm assuming.
Okay.
But explain to me how that first relationship went, and if so, and I don't know if the girl that you talked about was that the last girlfriend that you had prior
Yep.
to this. Okay, so how did
Yep.
this first boyfriend go and end?
So
Really?
the first boyfriend, we were actually just friends. We both were in the marching band together at our high school, and I was drum major, of course, and which is the highest position to have in the marching band. So our relationship was private. It was very secretive. Um, I was close to him, his siblings, his family, and we had like a secret down low undercover relationship. So even his siblings, his mom and dad didn't know. It was only him and I that knew, and other people that were also gay or on the low that were friends of ours. But the relationship was good. It wasn't, I can't really say anything negative about it. It was kind of short lived because once I graduated from college, I mean, from high school and went to college, that was the reason we broke up. I was moving to Florida, and at that time he was only a sophomore in high school.
So then, was there somebody that came next after that?
No, I can honestly say once I got to college, I was not trying to be tied down. Like I had some other guys after that, but it wasn't for relationships.
Fair. That's fair. That's fair to say. I want to address a little bit another one because again, you remind me of a good friend of mine. But at the beginning of today's episode, you mentioned sort of growing up a little bit with the church, right? And what they taught you in the church. And you're married now. So, and marriage now, I mean, it's legal in a lot of states. I'm not sure what the deal is, but so you're married now. You grew up in the church. What are your thoughts now of you finding your sexuality, being married to a man, um, and you know you still coming from that church background? Is that something you still hold dear to your heart? You still have those doubts because of what you learned as a kid? Uh, what can you tell me?
So that's it is something that I've battled with for a long time. And to an extent, I think the judgment on homosexuality is something that pushed me away from church. Um, Going back once my dad came into my life, that side of my family is deeply rooted into church. My grandfather is a pastor, and at the time it was because of my dad's mom. She was the reason why I came around a lot to that side of the family, and that's when I started going to church regularly. um they didn't know about me being gay or my sexuality. They kind of found out indirectly when I started just being open about it on social media. um but when it comes to church and the religious views on homosexuality, to me, I think that um, a lot of people don't believe that people are born gay. They think that it's a choice. Some people think that it's a choice. And for me, I don't ever remember going through a phase where I was choosing if I wanted to be gay or straight. It was always there. Ever since I've known what attraction was or going through puberty, I've always been attracted to men. So I always felt like I was born this way. And if God thinks that I'm this bad person or I'm going to hell because of it, then so be it. But I also didn't believe that that was true. So that's what allowed me to come to terms with the fact that, yeah, these people that are in church saying that the Bible says this, I don't think that God created me because to be this bad person or this sinner, because we all sin, but it does seem like a lot of religious and church people only pick out certain sins that's supposed to send you to hell. And being gay is like at the top of the list. But I just don't personally think that I'm going to be punished for being the way that I was made.
I like that. That's a good way of putting it because you're right. They pick and choose exactly what sends, right? Sends you to hell. And meanwhile, you got these Catholic priests, you know, touching on little boys. Like, are they not going to hell? Like, where's the cutoff? You know what I'm saying? And then you got other people who give, you know, no fucks and they're just born, you know, ugly, like Michael. They do nothing about it. And then it's like, are you going to hell? So that's a good point you make. I guess my next question would be, and I don't know if Michael has any other questions. What about your partner now? And you don't have to give us too much detail that you don't want to, but what about your partner now? Have you guys had that talk about, because me personally, I feel like in a
Should we
marriage.
save this for the last episode?
Okay, that's fair enough. That's fair.
Shouldn't we save that question for the last episode?
I like it. That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah, I mean, we ended this episode talking about, things with puberty, and one day, Manny, you'll get to that point of hitting puberty. But
Do you not see my beard? Do you not see the beard? God damn.
Yeah, you told me before the show that it was just clippings from the rug that you glued on, but that's fine.
I'll tell you what. I'm gonna go do something handsome people do. I'll be right back.
Okay, don't come back.
Since you want to be funny.
So, I just want to ask this final kind of thought question to end your episode for today before we go into that final episode for next week. What are your thoughts to those individuals who are kind of struggling with that same identity? I don't want to say identity crisis, because that's not what it is. It's like a identity discovery of finding themselves, that are going through that same thing. Because a lot of times, you guys are talking about how God created us and you and me and Manny to be 3 feet tall. The thing is when he created you to go through all of this stuff so that you can be that voice to other people that are going to go through it. A lot of people are always kind of saddened by the stuff that you go through, but those are learning lessons for you to be a voice and an assistance and a crutch for other people that are going through that. So if you could say anything to help inspire or help guide some individuals that are trying to go through that kind of discovery, what would you say to them? What would be your advice?
I would say if it's issues with faith, because I do believe in God. I do believe that your story is already planned and put out there for you to experience and go through. But always there's that saying that God will never put you through anything that you can't bear, meaning that whatever struggles you're going through, give them to him, but still also talk to him and go to him for that guidance and that strength that you need to make it through your life, but wholeheartedly accept who you are. And whether that's gay, straight, bi, red, white, black, purple skin, like just be you authentically and get to a point where you love and embrace who you are and show that to the world, regardless of what it looks like. I do honestly believe whoever you believe in is all that you need. All of your answers are there and within yourself already. And the people that's supposed to assist or help you or support you will come if you're walking in your own lane and being who you're supposed to be and doing what you're supposed to do, and trust your gut as far as what it's telling you to do and who you are. And it's easier said than done, but that's the best advice I can give. And that's based off my own experience.
Well, there it is. That is the voice of Will Baker-Sledd. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Check us out. Let us know what you guys think. If you guys are interested in being a guest on the show, also hit us up inside the comments and we'll try and get you on. Next episode is our final episode. It is that last kind of where you're at now, what things are going on. So we're going to cover a lot inside of that final episode, and I'm looking forward to it. So, like I said, please, everyone, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Hit us up, and we will check you guys out next week. Manny, until then, stay short. Talk to everybody next week.